I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Monroe County Public Library Board of Trustees. Welcome, everyone. We'll begin as usual by introducing ourselves, and if you care to share what you're reading, please do. Kari, you want to start us off?
Yeah, I'll just say one thing cool that Binford Elementary School is doing. The librarian there gives me brand new books, and I read the first chapter of the book, and then all the fifth graders see that on video, and they're enticed to read that new book. It's called First Chapter Fridays, and I can't remember the name of it. Sorry.
Hi, I'm David Ferguson, and I'm excited. I just downloaded a new book written. Nero Wolfe is a detective, and there's a series about him. Originally written by a Hoosier, whose name I've forgotten, but now he's died and someone else has picked up the series, and I've just downloaded the latest, so I'm excited to start it.
I'm Chris Harrison, and I'm currently between books.
I'm John Walsh. I'm reading The Victorious Century by David Carradine, and it's a 19th century history of the United Kingdom.
I'm Marilyn Wood, and I'm reading a book called Okay, Fine, Whatever, which is it's actually a memoir about anxiety, but pretty lighthearted at that same time.
I'm Fred Reisinger, and I have been on a out-of-state trip, and I just got back, and I brought my books back to the library today, and I have to go back up there and pick one up sometime before I leave.
Thank you. First item on our agenda is to approve the consent agenda with minutes from prior meetings, monthly financial report, monthly bills for payment, personnel report, and our meeting calendar. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions or corrections on the minutes or anything? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. And next is our Director's Monthly Report. Anything you'd like to highlight for us, Marilyn?
Yeah, I'd like to talk about our restart. So the library restarted, which means we opened for collection, browsing, and limited services on September 28th. We are now open 7 days per week, both at Main and at Ellettsville, and the first hour of each day is reserved for high-risk or vulnerable individuals. Our bookmobile has also resumed its regular schedule. Some of the services which we offer in person now, curbside pickup has been replaced by drive-up pickup, which is available at the main library, so you can drive, walk, or bike up. No appointment is required to pick up your materials any longer. Or you can come in the building and search for your own things. Computers are available, including a digital creativity workstation. The scanners are available, fax machines are available, photocopiers, printers, and all in use at this point. So we've been tracking our visitors, and I wanted to give you a bit of a look at the numbers. So the first day that we reopened, we had 547 visitors at the main library and 187 at Ellettsville. That's significantly lower than what our typical counts would be for that day, but at the same time, we felt very good. Most other libraries had been reporting anywhere between 20 to 40% of the traffic that they saw in pre-pandemic days, and that's about where ours is falling, somewhere between 25 and 40% at Main and or at Ellettsville, respectively. We're also tracking the maximum occupancy per hour, so we have a limit of 100 people at Main and 40 people at Ellettsville during any hourly time period. Excuse me. Simultaneously, not hourly, but simultaneously. And we have been staying below that. Our averages are somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 people at Maine and somewhere around 12 or 13 at Ellisville simultaneously. It's relatively, the number gets skewed a bit because it's higher on the weekends, as you might expect, and a little bit lower during the week, but we had a couple of great days when school was out last week. We saw a lot of students and their families in the library again, and we had one of our highest days that Thursday at the main library, the largest visitor count that day. So people were coming into the library. We also have virtual services that still are available, so programming, teen social activities through Discord, our Vital Adult Learner self-paced program is available, as well as e-resources, of course, as we talked about a couple of weeks ago. So we also have a lot of a lot of COVID safeguards in place, mask coverings, of course, face coverings, employee health screening, enhanced cleaning, and the things that we hope can help to lower risk for both our staff and for anyone using the library. But I wanted to share with you a note, and this was related to what we were talking about before the meeting began and how it was very nice to come back to the library. This is a long note that came from one of our users, library users, but I just want to read a couple of things from it. And she said, "Having the children's department open and being able to browse in person the last few weeks has been the most normal our library rat family has felt in 8 months. We haven't had much reason to be downtown, and after our first visit to the library a few weeks ago, she hugged the limestone bears outside and said, 'I missed you.' That, and then goes on to express her gratitude for a lot of different services that we provide. But then she ends with, 'That's all, I think. Just thinking about how encouraging the library is to us during these strange days.'" So,
Nice.
yes. Are there any questions about the report I can answer?
I too have heard comments from many people that they're happy that the library is open and what a good thing it is for them.
Great.
Thank you, Marilyn. Moving on, we have some updates under old business, starting with Southwest Branch Planning, and Greer Carson is going to present that.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, I'll give you a couple quick updates on branch planning and strategic planning. First, with the branch, our review and design team has met several times over the past few weeks as we continue to focus on site and mechanical planning and now begin discussions about space design and infrastructure, technology, community resources, physical collections, furniture, and the myriad details that make the branch design process feel much more real and exciting than maybe it has so far. We've been looking closely at contiguous spaces within the building in terms of where certain spaces should be located relative to one another. The goals are to create clearly defined spaces which serve a variety of community needs while maintaining an open and fluid feel throughout the building, keeping sight lines clear both for aesthetic and functional purposes, and ensuring that nearly every area of the library is flexible enough to anticipate future operational and/or design goals. For example, the location of the teen space is particularly critical both in terms of accessibility and visibility. The placement of the collaborative space is also important as it's the kind of space patrons want more of, and therefore represents part of the wow factor that we want to remain visible upon entry to the building itself. Staff workspaces and the materials processing room also requires careful planning, since we want to maximize convenience for patrons returning materials while ensuring that the automatic materials handler is connected to all return slots and that the impact of potential foot traffic patterns on staff workflows is minimized. We've also begun talking about the number and locations for public computers, self-checkout stations, service desks, printers, copiers, and possible technology solutions for the teen, children's, and collaborative spaces, as well as for meeting rooms and study areas, all in the context of how these different spaces relate to one another. We met with Circle Design last week to talk about HVAC specs, lower-level structure requirements for columns, walls, and ceilings, and the need for flexibility in terms of electrical layout. We've also had productive meetings with county officials, both to share our goals for the branch and to better understand the requirements of the site subdivision as it relates to building requirements and the land itself. We're very happy with the decision to go with option 2 and thereby minimize the number of trees we'll need to remove as part of this project, and the possibility of planting additional trees along portions of Rogers was discussed in relation to the subdivision requirements. That subdivision plan itself will go to the county on November 3rd. Once again, the branch review and design team has done a significant amount of work to get us to this point, and we're very grateful for their collaboration. So we'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Glad to see things are moving along. With no questions, we can move on to strategic planning update, also from Greer.
Sure. So since February of this year, the Strategic Roadmap team has worked diligently to identify community needs and appropriate strategies for meeting those needs. This process involved reaching out to over 70 agencies to engage in dialogues centered around what MCPL does well and what we can do better in our efforts to support the community. The results of a highly successful survey and community feedback campaign, including over 3,000 individual respondents, indicated, among other things, a strong desire for more digital content and access to that content, an even wider breadth of collections, including Library of Things collections, expanded outreach services and the addition of more social services, expanded program offerings specifically on sustainability and STEAM education and technology development. And we are happy to say an overall endorsement that we are indeed doing what our community wants us to do. The Roadmap team wrapped up its work this month by reviewing the library's mission, values, and goals as they relate to this community feedback. While the core of these important statements remains as relevant as ever, we do plan to adopt some language that specifies the importance of facilitating diversity as well as inclusivity, encouraging respectful dialogue with regard to civility, remaining an impartial and fully shared community space, and above all, being responsive and adaptive during an age of rapid and significant change. The next step is for our core audience teams and operational units to begin building their respective 2021 strategic action items in accordance with the priorities we've identified and in the spirit of the mission, values, and goals statements. These action plans will be submitted to the leadership team in early November, while the first draft of the 2021 to 2023 strategic plan itself will be shared with you all at the November 18th board meeting. The final draft of our plan will be presented during the December board meeting before we submit it to the state library in January. Any questions we can answer about that?
Do all libraries submit their strategic plans on the same schedule, or does it vary by library?
It varies by library. The state requires that each library prepare a 3 to 5 year plan.
Okay.
So it's just dependent upon each library's.
And when was our last one?
2018 to 2020, so it ends in December.
And how long is this plan looking? Is this a?
This is a 3-year rather than a
3-year.
5-year plan.
Any other questions for Greer? Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
On to new business. It's a big night after months of work of budget adoption. Do we have a motion to adopt the 2021 budget?
I move we adopt the 2021 budget.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions, or why don't you review this for us, Gary?
Yeah.
One last time.
Okay. So we went over the initial draft of the budget in July in some detail. And again, last month for the public hearing, we went over the revenue and spending budget in some detail. Tonight, we have the final step of the budget process, which is approval of the adoption form. And just to kind of go over the information on the form, the first column on the adoption form has the spending budget for each of the library's funds. The total spending budget for all the funds is $11,767,815, or $11,767,815. The second column is the budgeted revenue from the operating fund tax levy and the debt fund tax levy. The operating fund tax levy is about 6.7 million, and the debt levy is about 700,000. The third column is the tax rate column. So the combined operating fund and debt fund tax rate for 2021 is 9.42 cents per $100 of assessed value. So I'm going to move on to a pie chart. So this pie chart is based on a sample 2020 property tax bill for a residential property in Perry Township. The total tax rate is about $2.11 per $100 of assessed value. The tax dollars on this property that has a gross assessed value of $250,000 is about $2,800. The library tax for this sample is about $128 out of that $2,800. As you can see, the big pieces of the pie are schools and city and county government. So to put that 9.42 cents per $100 of assessed value in context with what's been happening over the past 10 years, we see that in 2011, the library tax rate was about 11 cents per $100 of assessed value. That was the last year we had the bond payment, the bigger bond payment. And then we got into our pattern of using general obligation bonds to fund our equipment and facility needs, and you can see that it is hovering just under that 10 cents per $100 of assessed value level. And going forward, we plan to keep it that way. So that's really about all I have for tonight, except I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any final questions or comments on the 2021 budget? All in favor of adopting the 2021 budget as presented in our formal approval document in our packet, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Thank you, Gary and Marilyn and everyone else who worked over the past many months and my fellow board members to get us to a new budget. Next, do we have a motion to approve a resolution declaring surplus items?
So moved. Second.
Only thing better than approving a budget is approving a resolution on surplus items. Anything noteworthy or that you want to highlight in this?
I'll just say that this list came from review of our fixed asset list that we are reporting to the county and the state. These are basically our assets that have a cost of over $5,000. Going through all that list, we identified these as items that appear to have been disposed of at some point in the past, because if an auditor came in and said, show me this, we would have a hard time doing that. So that's what we're cleaning up. Yes.
I know, like, the express check machines, they're probably broken. I mean, they probably don't work anymore. Is there any recycling of materials that we can do with some of this?
We do have an electronics recycling service that we use for are
So
obsolete
it's
tech.
not in a landfill if it's broken?
Yeah.
It can be recycled?
That's right.
Okay, just double check.
Any other questions on this or discussion?
Is the year listed, is that the year we disposed of the item or purchased the item or
Oh, the year, that's the
Yeah.
year we purchased.
purchased? Okay.
Seeing no more questions, all in favor of approving the resolution declaring certain property surplus, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. And do we have a motion to approve our security camera policy?
I move that we adopt our security camera policy.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Do you want to review the changes here?
Hey, this is one of those policies that has to be reviewed on an annual basis, and so there are minor changes to it with one exception, and that is that we have added images may be shared by library security staff upon request by law enforcement for suspected criminal activity on library property during a limited specified time period. So in other words, if an officer would come to us and say, we know between 5:30 and 5:45 on this day, we suspect activity, can I take a look at that? Then they are allowed to do that without additional approval from me if the officer happens to be there. Otherwise, that is it.
Are there any questions for Marilyn or discussion about this policy?
I guess just a question, not about the policy, but the security cameras, they are both inside the building and outside the building, correct?
That is true. But not in any, as it says in this policy, they're not in any area that would be considered private.
Do we frequently get requests from law enforcement to review
Not
this?
frequently, but we do get them. Most frequently for things that are happening outside rather than inside.
Any other questions or comments? All in favor of approving the revised security camera policy, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. For the next, is this an action item to approve this RFP?
It is.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the request for proposals for a new outreach van?
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Chris, you want to tell us about this?
Sure. My name is Chris Jackson. I'm the Special Audiences Strategist here at Monroe County Public Library. If you'll recall, in July, you had a proposal come before you for a consultant for this project, which you approved. This document is the fruit of our consulting with him, or the first fruit. So a team of us here who do outreach work got together with a consultant and came up with these specifications based on what services we currently do. We also thought about other services we could possibly provide with a newer outreach vehicle. And this document incorporates not just those specifications, but would form the basis of a contract with a vendor. So if approved tonight, it will be sent forth to potential vendors with a November 20th deadline for their proposals. And then I assume at your December meeting, you would get that proposal to vote on at the December meeting, whether we contract with that vendor. So this vehicle is what we use for what we call lobby stop service. The service typically goes to 10 assisted and nursing home facilities in the county to provide books and other media to people who don't have the mobility to either come to our branches or even use the bookmobile. Most of the residents of these facilities really do have very low mobility. We are still offering that service now in the pandemic period, although it's not a lobby stop where we set up inside the building and consult directly with the patrons and do reader's advisory. We're simply dropping off materials and picking up materials that staff at the facility then do the distribution. But course, we're very much looking forward to getting back to the face-to-face time with those patrons. So any questions about the van or the document here?
Just curious, is the van this time, are you looking for a little bit larger van then?
Yeah, the one that forms the basis of this is actually the same base vehicle that we currently have. I did not anticipate that going in. There are some other makes of extended roof cargo vans that are on the market since we purchased our current van, but their wheelbases are such that we can't fit as many carts in. So this is the biggest cargo van where we don't have to customize the body to make it larger. That would be an additional option, but a bigger expense, and then other problems that can develop when you're taking one company's body and putting it on another company's chassis. So this is the biggest one that comes the way we want it right from the factory. Same as before, and that one's worked fine for us. I just thought we might have some other vendors that could make it, but no.
Is it going to be higher then?
It will be the same height. So
Okay.
stand-up height is really important because we spend a lot of time inside the vehicle, arranging the shelves, the carts, moving the carts on and off, and to do it stooped over in a regular van, my back aches at the very thought of that. So it is the same stand-up height. We did have one 6'2" employee at one point. He needed to stoop, but he's not with us anymore. So I think all of us can currently stand.
Are the vendors who reply, are they general automotive dealers, or are there library specialist vendors?
Yeah, they're specialty vehicle vendors, and many of them specialize in bookmobiles, but they generally also do other things like custom law enforcement vehicles, bloodmobiles, other mobile health vehicles, that sort of thing. I've visited several of those vendors for previous projects, and government vehicles have been their other big thing besides bookmobiles that I'm aware of. So some members of the RV industry occasionally do as well. The RV industry is apparently booming right now, so I don't know if we would get any RV manufacturers with the capacity to take on this sort of vehicle, but we'll see. It's a competitive process, so we'll see who wants the business.
And I see the base vehicle's a Freightliner 2500.
Yeah, so our current one is a Dodge 2500. You can also get it as a Mercedes 2500. They all come from the same factory in Germany.
So it's a Chrysler?
It is part of that Fiat Chrysler
It's
mega corporation.
It's more now. Than
Yeah,
just, right.
yeah, you can get it with different base plates, but
I see.
our bookmobile is Freightliner, so we thought we might have a matching pair.
There you go. Any other questions for Chris or discussion about the RFP?
I have a silly question. How do you decide what color it's going to be?
Well, so we'll probably go with the factory color. It only comes in one shade of green, and with green being the predominant library color, that will be it. But once we have a vendor, I will take it to Mandy, our communications and marketing person, and get her stamp of approval on the color selection.
Thank you, Chris. All in favor of approving the request for proposals for outreach van specifications, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. And next is our monthly update, this month from Adult Services, presented by Elizabeth Gray, Adult Audience Strategist.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing this time for me. This year presented Adult Services with a unique set of challenges due to the pandemic. We needed to create new ways to serve our community, and in spite of those challenges, we rose to the occasion and discovered opportunities to provide programs and services to continue to meet the needs of our patrons. Programming presented one of our greatest opportunities to connect with the community in unique ways. As we could not present programs face-to-face for most of the year, we had to make accommodations. One way we did this was by using Zoom to provide interactive, real-time programming. We successfully moved several of our book clubs to Zoom, which allowed for ongoing discussions and interaction. As people were quarantined, this method was especially important to provide a way for people to interact socially. Our Spanish language discussion group also moved to Zoom. Librarian Morning Wilder is using Zoom to meet with the Fall Hiking Club. This club allows people to hike on their own and then gather to share their experiences, including photos, drawings, or recordings. Suggested trails include those from Brown County State Park, Morgan Monroe State Forest, and the Laura Hare Nature Preserve, but participants may hike any trail that they choose. The need to provide programs virtually did not impede adult services staff from continuing to form partnerships within our community. Librarian Anise Blanchard also used Zoom for their program Queer Talk in partnership with Middleway House. This book club provides a safe space to discuss books written by and for LGBTQIA+ individuals, as well as issues faced by this community. The library also partnered with the Monroe County Public Defender's Office for an interactive workshop entitled Navigating Police Encounters. Bella Bravo of the Public Defender's Office covered the 3 phases of a police encounter, the constitutional rights that protect people during each phase, and tips for de-escalating the situation while effectively using your rights. Participants also had the opportunity to ask questions. Librarian Anise Blanchard also forged ahead planting a garden at the Banneker Community Center. Initially, this was to be a project that involved the children and adults who frequent the center. However, the pandemic put a stop to that, so Anise went ahead and planted and harvested the garden on their own. The seeds planted came from MCPL's own seed library, and the food harvested was donated to the Banneker Community Center for their meal program, which served over 125 families. The library also partnered with Kamdala Meditation Center Bloomington for a 4-part guided meditation series in June. This recorded program lives on the library's YouTube channel and may be accessed at any time. Adult services staff also created videos for people to enjoy at their leisure on the library's YouTube channel. These include a series on painting miniatures, a video detailing how to paint weatherproof pots, and an upcoming do-it-yourself video on how to make your own bike bucket. Librarian Anise Blanchard and Senior Information Assistant Edwin Falwell started a quarantine project online. This zine encouraged community members to create pages for the Quarantine, which expressed their experiences during the quarantine phase of the COVID pandemic. 5 volumes of the zine were published. Librarian Erica Brown created a Harry Potter escape room to engage participants online. As a group or individual, patrons could engage with a short, self-guided, interactive game of Harry Potter-themed puzzles, duels, and codes set during Book 7 of the Harry Potter series. Pre-COVID, the Adult Services team carried out more traditional programming in person, including a series of computer instruction classes teaching Word, Excel, and social media basics, a nature, connection, and community building program, performances by the Bloomington Symphony Orchestra, which took place in the atrium, a program to encourage patrons to create recipe journals, and we hosted housing navigators through South Central Indiana housing opportunities to assist tenants and landlords access resources and provide advice for tenants and landlords on their rights and responsibilities. As Marilyn mentioned, as the library has reopened on a more limited basis, we took great time and care in determining how to best provide services on the second floor. One of our most important services to the community is computer access, and this brought challenges in social distancing and providing assistance as needed to patrons. We limited the number of public computers that can be accessed, as well as limiting usage to 1 hour per patron using our current computer access software. The computers available to patrons are at least 6 feet apart, and cleaning supplies are available near each station so that patrons may clean the keyboard, mouse, and desk before sitting down. In order for our staff to be able to assist patrons on computers while maintaining appropriate social distancing, we have software on tablets that allow us, with the consent of the patron, to view their screen on the tablet. From there, we're able to direct them, as well as actually interact with their computer to help them move forward with their computer usage. We also brought 2 of the iMacs from Level Up to the second floor to provide patrons with the opportunity to use programs specific to digital creativity that are only available on these machines. This year has brought challenges I never expected to face in serving our community. I'm thankful for the Adult Services team using their talents and creativity to rise to the challenge and create new opportunities to serve our patrons and engage with our community. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any at all. It was quite a year. It was not the year we expected, but yeah, it turned out, I think things turned out really well. So I'm really pleased with all of the hard work that's been done.
I guess I would just like to comment, I don't know if it's been the past 7 or 8 years, but the adult programming has really beefed up and has been so exciting.
Thank you. We've worked hard to kind of increase and expand who we appeal to in the community. We've tried to look at groups that we haven't appealed to previously, and the team has just done a fantastic job with that kind of thing. So thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Other questions? Well, thank you, Elizabeth, and thank you for you and your staff for your resourcefulness and creativity in continuing to deliver library services during this crazy time.
Thank you so much.
It is now time for public comment. If any members of the public would like to address the board, please come to the podium, state your name, and share your thoughts with us. Seeing none, do we have a motion?
I have one
Oh.
additional item, and that is just to let everyone know that you should expect a special meeting in November. We will need to extend our purchase and sale agreement on the property at Bachelor, so as soon as those documents are prepared, I will let you know. And at the same time, because we would likely have a special meeting in November due to insurance rates and other policies that we're going to be reviewing, I'll try to combine all of that into the special meeting so that we'll only meet twice. But you should expect to hear from me about another meeting time.
Would that be before our normal work session?
Yes, it
Ok-
will.
Okay. So we probably we'd have that special meeting, no
And-
work session,
yeah.
and then our regular
Yes.
meeting? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
All in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.